It's not about the injury. It's not about the injury. It's about the recovery. It's about the recovery.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the Paul Padda Podcast, coming to you from Red Chimp Studios here in Las Vegas. Today, I'm really excited about our guest, Gil Manzano Jr., very successful young immigration attorney, part of the Vegas Lawyers, an affiliate law firm of Paul Padda Law.
Yes.
And today we're going to learn about Gil, and we're going to learn about immigration law. Welcome to the show.
I appreciate it. Thank you so very much for having me. I'm really excited about today.
Thank you. So Gil, tell our viewers a little bit about yourself. First of all, you're a junior, so that means that there's a Gil Manzano Sr.
There is.
And my understanding is your dad's a lawyer too, right?
Yes, and resides here, but he's just about at the tail end of his career, and he's going to be retiring very soon. So I am a junior, and I was born in South Texas.
Okay.
But I grew up in Southern California, Orange County, which everybody says is the OC.
So how does somebody go from South Texas, which I'm sure is a lovely place, but I know how humid it is in Houston, to Orange County? That's got to be nice.
So my father moved me when I was 3 years old to Southern California because actually he went to law school.
Okay.
And there in Southern California. So I was raised there till I was about 19 years of age. Mm-hmm. And I had a wonderful, wonderful childhood. Love Orange County. Lived close to Disneyland. To be able to watch the fireworks from my backyard. As a child growing up, every day during the summer at 10 o'clock at night, I knew it was like clockwork. Got to see the fireworks from Disneyland. So that was always a nice treat.
Grew up on the beach, I'm assuming?
Oh, I used to go to the beach very often.
Surfer?
Surf.
Wow.
Bodyboard, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was always fun. We used to take the Brookhurst bus all the way. And
see, I grew up on the islands in the Caribbean, so I'm more of a windsurfer guy because our waves weren't that big. But
I would think windsurfing is a little bit more difficult.
I tried the surfing thing, and I thought, yes, can't be that hard, but man, it is hard.
Yeah, it looks hard. It probably is. It's much easier than being on a bodyboard and just surfing the waves. So yeah, I grew up surfing and really, really enjoyed it.
Now, did you spend you've lived here in Vegas for a while too, right?
I did. So then when I became around 19, 20 years of age, then we moved here in Las Vegas, and this has been home base for me for many, many years. And up till now, I still have deep roots here in Las Vegas. My father still lives here.
Yeah.
And I still miss California, but I really enjoy Nevada.
That's wonderful. Tell us, how did you end up becoming an immigration lawyer?
Well, it's actually by accident. So I became licensed in 2006, and that office really was an office that it was pretty much a little bit of everything. It's a boutique law firm. They used to do criminal work, personal injury, accident. They used to do
door law, whatever comes through the door.
Whatever comes through the door. It's Main Street, not Wall Street. It's called Main Street Law Office. So that was it, and that's how I learned. I got my chops. Yeah. So this one particular individual had come into the office and asked if we had done immigration, which I didn't know anything about at that time. And actually, I still specifically recall that it was a TPS. I didn't even know what TPS was, temporary protective status. And but I knew somebody who did, and I just felt really bad for her. So I said, listen, I don't know anything about it, but I can certainly try to help you. Let me make a phone call, and let's get her on the line, and you can ask her questions. Yeah. And so we did, and we answered the question. She answered all her questions, and eventually found out that she wasn't eligible to do anything at the time. But the appreciation in her eyes after I made that phone call, just taking the time out to say, listen, to help, kind of spurred something in me. Being Mexican American myself, my great grandmother had been immigrated here and naturalized in 1954. So I have an empathy for these individuals, for all ethnicities of individuals who are trying to come here the right way, and they want to build a future in life. And so because of that one individual come in, then eventually I took a little class and did a CLE, a continuing legal education class in San Antonio, and went for 2 days, and it was a very bare bones type of continuing legal education. See this? This is what you call an I-130 petition. Really? All right, good. And see this? This is what you call a residency application. Okay, good. So kind of started from there. And then slowly, because of the diverse ethnicity that we have here in Nevada, eventually people started to find out that we started doing it. So slowly I kind of fell into it and started one by one, started doing it. And now 14 years later, I've been fortunate to still be in the practice.
You know, I have found immigration law, people sometimes think, oh, it's just filing a bunch of forms. And it is an area of law I have a lot of respect for, people that are immigration practitioners, lawyers like yourself out there. because this is actually one of the most complicated areas of law. Maybe even more complicated than the tax code is the immigration
That's
laws.
what they say.
There's an alphabet soup of agencies involved, right? It's not like if you're a criminal defense lawyer in the federal system, well, you're dealing with the Department of Justice. And
Right.
maybe there's agencies like the FBI and the DEA that investigate.
Correct.
If you are a personal injury attorney, you're dealing with an insurance company on the other side. If you're an immigration lawyer, you're dealing with what? Department of Homeland Security, Department of Labor, Department of State. Each
Yes.
has their own regulations.
Absolutely.
Tell us some of the biggest challenges about practicing as an immigration lawyer.
Well, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is the difficulty in gathering old petitions or old information, other documentations that may have been previously filed by a family member. I'm sure much of the public probably do, even if you know nothing about immigration law, they do understand the fact that it takes a long time to process, and that all is governed by the fact of what type of petition you're filing and who's filing for whom. I find the most difficult part is that when you're filing a certain documentation, like with USCIS, which used to be called INS, they have records, and if you don't maintain some of those records, it's so difficult to get them, and you have to contact every single other department who may have copies and do a FOIA request, which is called a Freedom of Information Act request, and that takes a certain amount of time. And sometimes they don't even come back complete.
Yeah.
So I find that the most difficult, whereas if you're filing an insurance claim, you could just easily request it from the insurance company they provided, or if you're filing litigation, they have maintained records, you could get it through a course of discovery. But through a FOIA, through the FBI, you could do the FOIA through the Department of Homeland Security, like you mentioned, USCIS, the Border Patrol maintains their own.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do a request, you have to do it to multiple legal entities to try to gather, because you may have triggered an unlawful deportation, which is through the deportation, which is the immigration courts, and then of course you may have the border, which is the Border Patrol. We have my unlawful entry and had some records. So it is very difficult to manage and to obtain and contact the right sources to obtain that information, and that alone makes immigration practitioner, very difficult for him.
Now, when people think of immigration courts, they think maybe you go to an immigration court to deal with any type of immigration issue. That's not entirely true, correct?
No, deportations court only handles the deportation proceedings.
So if you're an immigration court, it means that the government has determined you are quote unquote removable, which is a fancy term that the government likes to use basically for deportation.
Correct.
And they're trying to send you back somewhere.
Correct. So most often that is triggered because of a crime.
Yeah.
So they'll put you in proceedings. They'll determine whether you have any form of remedy to stay here in the United States, generally through a family member. Sometimes it's just, depending on what region you are, like in the Fifth Circuit or the state of Texas, there is now an agreement between Immigration Customs Enforcement, which is ICE, and local enforcement that, hey, if I detain you on the 287G, which was the agreement that they had, they can detain you and say, wait till immigration comes and picks you up, and then based on that, they'll put you in deportation proceedings to have you, through the administrative process, to have you removed. Yeah. And so it gets into some serious entanglements.
I think, tell me how you deal with the stress level, because a lot of people come to you and their life is hanging in the balance. I mean, it is a big deal.
It's
like
big deal.
representing someone, who might be facing, if you're like a federal or a state criminal defense attorney, the stakes are high. But these are folks who, a lot of them have not committed any kind of crime. They're just immigrants looking to, get their situation settled, and they're facing deportation. How do you deal with that?
Well, it is very difficult, because you have these individuals whose family members, either spouse or children, and their loved one is detained, and you're looking at them and they're looking for you for answers. And most times you may have them, sometimes you may not, and sometimes you just simply have to tell them that there's nothing I can simply do.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to look somebody in the eye and tell them, listen, there's not much I can help you with, given the circumstances and everything else. And the stress level is high, especially dealing with very many cases, all in different levels or different stages of the case. And as you know, and everybody else is well aware, that these cases take 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And so you're still hanging on to all those emotions for that long period of time until there's some resolution, good or bad, with the cases.
So before the show, I think you said something to me. I was really shocked to hear it. You said that you've heard that USCIS, the main government agency dealing with immigration, is thinking of furloughing or laying off 14,000 employees. Did I hear you correctly?
That is correct. 13,400 is
wow.
the number.
What's that about?
So in essence, USCIS is self-funded. They don't receive any sort of monies from Congress unless they request and it's allocated for them. They're a self-funded department. So when anybody files a petition, those accompanying filing fees, which are very high, those are so that it covers the administrative costs, the employees, it covers the lights, the paper, the postage that all these applications that are multiples all over the country cover. And so now recently with what's been going on with the COVID-19, there's been a diminished amount of applications because people are simply out of work, can't afford to pay for an attorney or do it on their own and paying for the filing fees. And then with the Trump administration and their policies recently have really turned some individuals off to wanting to file and kind of now a bit sitting on a wait and see kind of position. So there's been a less amount of filings, and I forgot what the presidential probably over 60% filings in the last 4 to 5, 6 months. And so because of that, they're still maintaining the high overhead that USCIS maintains, but the filing fees to cover those expenses are far less for the numerous reasons, some of the reasons I just mentioned right now. And so they're simply asking Congress, and they're asking for them for some monies in the billions, and here in early August to either help us and provide some of these monies to cover us while this pandemic is pending. Otherwise, 13,400 employees are going to be furloughed and be out of work and now go, and all over the country. There's no particular region because there's multiple USCIS
in every
offices.
city in America.
Every city in America. There's the large segment of the offices all over the country and regions are all going to be affected. So they're going to lay off or furlough a lot of these people. So if you thought the process was going to be slow before, it's certainly going to be much slower now.
Well, that's a really interesting point, and it's the law of unintended consequences that you by having a more punitive approach to immigration, you cause a lot of people to go underground, and now they're not paying the filing fees that they would normally pay, which are very high, and that has a trickle-down effect. That has an effect on the government in terms of not as much revenue coming in, so they don't need all these employees. So in a perverse way, the very people that are there to enforce the law against these people and have done it in a way that has actually driven a lot of people so to speak, underground, now is going to cause them to lose their jobs. That there's a certain irony to all of that, I think.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, some of these and not to get too political, but some of these the position that the administration has taken, I understand in the spirit of what they're trying to do, what they think is right, but as you said, have very negative effects and a trickle effect onto everything else.
Yeah.
And I don't know that's necessarily what is what they're intended, but that's what's happening, especially with the DACA.
I mean, as lawyers, we believe in the law. We believe in the enforcement of the law. And nobody, I don't think any reasonable person would ever advocate an open border system where you just have people come in without any type of visa or inspection. And so those people like yourself who are immigration lawyers, who are helping people comply with the law, it seems to me, we're not talking about people who have sort of skipped the line necessarily or breaking the law. Some people, if you come in completely illegally, there may be very few remedies, if any at all. The overwhelming majority of people in the immigration system are people who came here legally in one form or another and are now trying to work within that system and get some kind of status. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate. I mean, of course, you want to reward the individuals who have done it right. They filed the proper petition. They've been waiting in line just like everyone else, and they should be rewarded for that. They should be given an opportunity. If you're doing things the right way, you should. Yeah. Obviously, the individuals who come in unlawfully, who have been here many years, they're kind of punishing them for that, in doing fees or simply telling them they don't have any sort of remedy. And of course, when a client comes in and I speak to them, of course we have to advocate. You got to do the right things. We can't advocate or to help promote to do things that are filing petitions that are frivolous or knowing that they don't have any certain remedy or availability to that. And we just have to work with what we have. And in the last probably year and a half, some of those things have been taken away from us, especially in fighting asylums. And we're talking about these individuals who we saw this large grove of individuals come last year. There was a big thing in the news. Tens of thousands of migrants coming from South America coming up in the asylums. And Trump immediately, or administration immediately, started taking away the availability of certain types of asylums that they can apply for. They're mandating that they apply for asylums in some of those countries that they came through first, like Mexico or Guatemala, apply for there before they can apply here. And that was in litigation for a while. And then they implemented the issue of asylees now having to wait outside the country, whereas before they would process them, allow them to come in, hang out, wait until their process goes through, and then they can figure out what they're going to do. But they've denied their entry as well. So they're doing things for those individuals who are not doing it the right way.
So what's going on with the? There was a lot of media coverage about these immigration jails, for lack of a better way of putting it. I know the government probably prefers the term detention facility. But there are immigration jails in the sense that people's movements are restrained, right, within that facility, and a lot of them, I think, were in Texas, or some.
Yeah.
But is that still happening? I mean, I know it happened under the Obama administration as well. But is that something still that is just not getting press coverage? Is it still?
Well, I've seen some photos most recently of these children and parents are literally in cages and small, and they have individuals from the AILA, American Immigration Lawyers Association, and some LULAC has been down there. Some of these larger organizations that have representatives go down there to check the conditions and make sure these individuals are, at least at some level, have humanistic value as far as, are they be able to bathe, are they be able to be fed, are they be able to be clothed, and all these things. And some, I've heard stories that have been very horrific. So what they're supposed to do, so these individuals who come to the southern border, like for example, you just mentioned Texas, they're supposed to be processed and they're supposed to be released into the United States pending an asylum claim or any type of other petitions. These minor children are applying for SIJ, Special Immigrant Juvenile Status, and then they get housed or put into a home where they have a known family member here in the United States pending this matter because they're their children. But there was a point in this past year or the early part of the year where they were not releasing them and they were keeping them. So now they're keeping all these individuals who they did not have the proper housing or capacity for this large immigrant group of individuals, and they now they just maintain them and they kept them and they're still there. And they don't know what to do with them. And so it seems like, well, I understand you kind of have these large amount of individuals just come storming the southern border and they're trying to regulate them and trying to process them. But at some point you got to decide, okay, well, I just need to simply release them back into Mexico or back into their home country, or release them to the United States and then process them. But simply just maintaining and keeping there, I don't think anybody, whether you're Republican or Democrat, is really going to be
No, it's not healthy for society.
I mean, they're still human. Regardless, they were born somewhere else and they have a ethnicity name, but they're just not any more different than you and I. So you got to look at the humanistic virtue of it. Are we doing the right thing? Are they doing the right thing? And immigration attorneys are down there trying to do what they can, but of course they're working within the confines of the law, which is very difficult right now.
So as someone who's practiced immigration law for a long time with a lot of experience, if there was one thing you could fix about our immigration system, what would it be?
Well, I think that everybody has to agree that the amount of individuals who are here within the United States, there has to be a form of amnesty. There was an amnesty that was done back in 1986
under President Reagan.
And that helped, but the problem with that is that resolved the issue for then, and it gave a lot of good people residency status, legal permanent residency status versus the green card. But the problem is that the southern borders, then they continue to allow these individuals to come through, so they were not being regulated as well. I mean, as a practicing attorney, I can appreciate that people are coming, but I think they should come lawfully. There should be some regulation at the southern border. There should be some problematic way of getting these individuals to be processed to come the right way so that we can regulate, so we don't have this large amount of individuals who are simply here to within society and with no legal status. They gotta have some sort of status because they are kicking into the system. They are paying. They do buy consumer goods.
It's a problem in search of a solution. There has to be a solution.
There has to be, and I think by providing the individuals who are currently, giving them some form of amnesty, I think that it gives them an opportunity that if they're going to be working from the moment they work, from that age going forward, I think they should be giving certain benefits, but only benefits based on what they've paid into the system. And that gives them an opportunity. That gives them identity. It gives them status. It gives them hope, so that when they're working, they know they're paying taxes. And I think we should secure the southern border. But I think amnesty is the way to go. And for DACA, which has been a big thing the last couple of weeks. I think they should give them a way of self-petitioning so they can, in eventuality, is to give them citizenship since they've been here since minor children. They should have their own path to citizenship and do it the right way. I think those are two biggest things right now we need to do.
Really fascinating conversation. Gil, thank you so much for coming on the show. We've learned a lot. Thank you, and take care.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me. I'll be back again.
Folks, it's a wrap. Another episode of the Paul Padda Podcast. We've been very pleased to have Gil Manzano Jr., a very well-known immigration attorney here in Las Vegas, educate us and inform us about immigration laws. Stay safe out there. Until next time, take care.